friends, my name is Kelsey. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a book review for the book Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand. I read this book for the BookTube games. I was on Team Ketterdam and Sawkill Girls was the group book. If you read the book during the week it was assigned, you are able to double the pages for your team. If not for the group challenge for the BookTube games, I don't think I ever would have picked this book up. This book is a young adult magical realism, and that's not my usual genre, but I can say that I'm glad the BookTube games challenged me to read it because I was very impressed. The book takes place on an island called Sawkill Rock, and over the course of the island's history, young girls have gone missing and have never been found, and no one knows what happens to them. We follow three main characters in the book. The first is Marion Althouse, and she moves to Sawkill Rock with her mother and sister after her father dies in a tragic car accident. She is the rock of her family. She lends a lot of emotional support to her mother, who has kind of checked out after her father's death, and she is the more responsible between her and her sister. Her family moves into the large estate of the Mortimer family on the island, and their purpose is to be sort of caretakers and housekeepers that live on site. Our second main character is Zoe Harlow, and she is the daughter of the police chief who has been investigating the recent disappearing girls. She's lived on Sawkill Rock for several years, but she's never quite fit in with the rest of the residents. She is unapologetically herself, and she doesn't want to compromise that. She is headstrong and driven. Her best friend Thora has recently become one of the many girls that have gone missing on this island, and she is determined to find out what happened to her, not only for her friend Thora, but also for all of the other missing girls that the island seems content to forget about. Our third main character is Val Mortimer, and she is the daughter of the Mortimer matriarch, the largest estate of the island where the Althouses have just moved in. She is popular with her peers, she's charismatic, she's traditionally beautiful, she seems to have it all, but she is also trapped in her life. She doesn't feel that there's any way for her to escape it. Zoe suspects that Val and her family have something to do with the disappearances. The book is written from multiple perspectives. Our three main perspectives are from our three main characters. We also have a fourth perspective from the viewpoint of the island itself. One great thing about this book is the representation. My favorite character, Zoe, our headstrong girl, is Black and asexual, and her asexuality is not back burner representation. It's something that is on her mind fairly frequently and is a main point of her character arc throughout the book. Marion is bisexual, and again, this is something she thinks about fairly regularly. Because of the circumstances that she has been through, her father's death and her need to be a strong base for her family means that she hasn't had time for crushes on her peers or exploring her sexuality. And then we have Val, who is either bisexual or lesbian. I don't think the text is really clear, but we do know that a relationship develops between Marion and Val. Another great thing about this book is the writing and the atmosphere that the author builds. From the very first page, you get this feeling of dread that slowly builds throughout the book, but in almost a pretty way. On the very first page of the book, from the Rock's perspective, there's a passage that I'm going to read real quick because I feel like it really gives you a good idea of the writing style. The houses like palaces, old but solid hewn, gray and white and shingled, sprawling and manicured, careless and dignified. Old money, the taste of it sits on every tongue like a film of stale sugar. The way the dark, rough sea bites up the shoreline, how the winds on the eastern side groan like old-time beasts turning in their sleep. So from that very first page, I was pretty engrossed in the idea of the island itself. There are a few really strong themes throughout the book, and one of them is feminism and the idea of women supporting women. And I really love this theme because I feel like girls from a young age are sort of taught that we need to compete with one another, that there's only so much space allotted for us in the world, and we have to fight with one another in order to take those spaces. And that's such a harmful way of looking at things and really keeps women down. And one of the simplest ways we can change society from the ground up is by refusing to fight each other and instead support each other and lift each other up. And that book gets that message across really well. Personally though, my favorite theme throughout the book was the idea of dismantling the patriarchy. There are several spots in the book where you can see this idea push through, but my favorite is towards the end of the book, and I'll read a little passage, but don't worry, there's no spoilers about it. There are a few times that a male character says things like, "This is the way it is done, this is the way our fathers taught us, so it has been done, and so it is done, and so it shall always be done." And our main character Marion says, "And so it shall never be done again." And like, that shit gave me chills. I've read a few critiques about the end of this book saying that it paints men in a bad light and how it implies that all men are evil. And I totally disagree with that because not all of the male characters in this book are evil, and not all of them are hunting women down and trying to harm them. But one thing that this book does, and that draws a parallel to real life, is that though not all men are sexist and not all men are trying to keep women down, we live in a patriarchal society, and all men benefit from that society, even if they don't think they're contributing to it. So men that are not actively trying to dismantle the patriarchy are inherently supporting it. So those were quite a few of the things that I loved about this book. Now on to a couple of things that I thought could have been better done. In this book, there's a relationship between two of our female characters, Marion and Val. The relationship started physically because Marion has a crush on Val and thinks she's beautiful and wants to be with her, and it's totally normal for a teenage girl. But I feel that their growing feelings for each other could have been better explored, and instead we get a lot of scenes of them being together physically, but fewer conversations, and a lot of that emotional growth goes unsaid and unexplored, and I would have liked to see more of that. Another secondary character who is a love interest for Zoe has a reasonably large part in the book, but his character is not very well developed, and I would have liked to see more from him also. I do understand why he's less explored, because this book is very much about our female characters and their growth, but because his arc is so involved in Zoe's, I think more would have helped. I watched a review of this book from Noria Reads, and her review is really great. I'll leave it linked down below so you can check it out. But she pointed out another thing that I didn't notice while reading, and that's the relationships that our main characters have with their mothers. And for the most part, they're not great relationships. Marion's mother is emotionally neglectful after the death of her husband. Val's mother is blatantly abusive. And Zoe's mother is absent because she lives with her father. And I just think that's an interesting point that I didn't see and is worth thinking about if you decide to pick up this book. But she has some other great thoughts, so definitely check her review out too. I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it and I would recommend it. If you've read this book, let me know what you thought in the comments, if you agree or disagree, or if you have any questions about the book, if you're thinking about reading it, I'd be happy to answer them. If you like this video, hit like. I post book-related videos every Wednesday, so hit subscribe if you want to keep up. I'll see you guys next week. Bye!